Welcome to the Roundtable. This may sound different because I am not Adam Preston, and yes, this is weird. Adam Preston is gone at a Seinfeld reality camp. Unfortunately, the camp had to end early after Adam got in a fight with Kramer over their joint love of Mickey Mantle. Anyway, with me this week is Bryant Wolf. Thanks for being on the program.
Thank you, man. It's great to be here.
And I, of course, am Alan Freedom. So a lot going on this week. A lot of picks for the cabinet for Fitzgerald.
Yeah, it's been really weird. It's been an odd mix, but of both fringe conservatives and regular establishment picks. You've got his nominee for Interior Secretary, Jerry Patterson, former Texas Land Commissioner, buddy of Fitzgerald's, and Patterson knows what he's doing. I could have seen him picked in, a Mitt Romney administration or something. He's perfectly fine. He's there. Nobody cares about it. What's really interesting, though, I think, and for many Americans, is the president's nominee for Secretary of State, Spencer Blenheim.
Yeah, he's more of an establishment candidate, correct?
He is the definition of establishment. Blenheim was ambassador to Germany under H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton, earned his doctorate at Georgetown, and then for 4 years under President George W. Bush was ambassador to the United Kingdom, and then resigned at the beginning of the Obama administration. So he is. If Mitt Romney had won in 2012, we would have been talking about Spencer Blenheim getting some sort of very high-powered role in the Romney Foreign Affairs Division, and that would be natural. But it's weird here because it's not anybody who we might have expected from Fitzgerald, like Donald Trump, or who was a very prominent supporter of Fitzgerald on foreign policy, or someone completely out of the blue. Instead, we've got Spencer Blenheim, who is literally like everything Kyle Fitzgerald fought against during the primaries.
Exactly. He was a very anti-establishment candidate and ran on that almost exclusively, but then picks a sort of strange bedfellow.
We all know the politics makes strange bedfellows, but this is maybe the oddest pick, and that includes Obama picking Hillary Clinton in 2008. This man I don't think it'll last more than a year, actually. I think Blenheim will be gone by the time 2018 starts because they disagree on so many issues.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how that is going to work out when they talk in the White House.
Blenheim is a classic neoconservative who loves free trade and free trade agreements and is all about America as an international power, whereas Fitzgerald, I don't know why I call him Trump, Fitzgerald's big on protectionism, tariffs, America first, exceptionalism, working by ourselves. Blenheim loves the UN. It's literally like the odd couple here. Except this time, they're old white men instead of less old white men.
Yeah. Instead of one really OCD Jewish man and one really slobby Italian. And then that kind of leads into the next pick there, because if that wasn't strange enough, let's see if I can find it here. For economics was even weirder than that, even weirder than Blenheim.
Dude, this pick for Treasury has everybody scratching their heads. The economist, Dr. Peter Navarro, who used to teach at the University of California, Irvine, and has multiple books out. Navarro is a critic of both Germany and China, something the president really likes doing, and is all about reducing our trade deficits. And he's considered by experts in the field commonly to be a nut. He's a French economist who, I mean, he fits with Fitzgerald better than anybody could, I think, on economics because of their views. And I think especially with I think the focus that the president is turning to trade in his first year, that's another reason why I think Blenheim is going to be gone, is that Navarro will become the leading voice in the president's ear on trade.
Right, and they agree very much on trade, on protectionism, on tariffs for outside goods coming into the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Navarro has written that trade is, and I'm not kidding here, a national security risk.
Huh.
He flows perfectly with President Fitzgerald's ideology of American exceptionalism. I think this is maybe the most Fitzgerald pick he's made so far, and they're going to work together really well. But where I see disagreement is with Spencer Blenheim, who, as Secretary of State, also has an important role in trade matters. And so I think that that's not going to be good for the country as a whole. And other analysts agree with me that we're going to see a lot of people not wanting to go into trade negotiations with us because you're trading with a U.S. trade representative who hasn't been determined yet, but based on the president's picks so far, will probably be somebody like Navarro. You'll deal with Navarro himself, or you're dealing with Spencer Blenheim, who loves free trade.
Right.
You've
and
got
is
the most ideologically diverse cabinet ever, which could be a good thing, but it's considering the big diversities between state and treasury, probably isn't going to work well.
And do you even think that Navarro could pass the Senate?
Yes, I think he could, because the Senate is Republican, and as of their votes right now and how they've been acting in the press, I think they are at this point very loyal to President Fitzgerald and will do whatever he asks of them. The current Senate over the last few years has been growing its ranks in its nationalist and evangelical wing on the Republican side instead of business and moderate Republicans like they used to. And so I think that we're going to see maybe their more liberal-leaning members might oppose, such as Susan Collins and or Lisa Murkowski. But I think that Senate Whip John Cornyn for the Republicans will attempt to whip his party into shape, even if it means that Vice President David Parker has to come in to break a tie.
Right. Or you might even see some of the more hardcore conservatives like Ted Cruz and Jeff Sessions maybe oppose this on more ideological grounds of free enterprise.
I'd actually, to be frank, if I was a cabinet nominee, if I could choose any cabinet nominee before for a hearing, in hopes that I would go through, I would be Navarro, not Blenheim. Because McConnell and Cornyn firmly have their hand on business Republicans and moderate Republicans to make them vote their way. But they clearly, in the past, have not had a hand on their evangelical and nationalist wing that I think could see an amount, depending on how he performs the hearings and what other potential White House sources have to say about him, he could very well not get confirmed because of a vote from people like Jeff Sessions or new Senator Ted Cruz.
Right. Right. And we'll have to see how that plays out. Moving on to the Supreme Court, and sort of, and as part of this Me Too movement that's now put me in charge here, it seems there's going to be a vacancy. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of a nominee that Fitzgerald picks for that.
I mean, so here's Fitzgerald's dilemma, really. Because the Republicans haven't had a president since 2008. They haven't really had any court nominees that would swing their way, and especially since now retired Senator Harry Reid pulled off his procedural gambit to seat Merrick Garland, President Fitzgerald really needs to get a conservative on the court, because this is going to be a very, very swingy court with both Merrick Garland and Anthony Kennedy. So you've got either – the problem he's got is that he's got a lot of options. He wants to pick a mainstream conservative. If he wants to pick Brett Kavanaugh, Bill Pryor, people that, were hyped up for a potential Romney pick, and that have been considered by scholars like Jeff Toobin to be on the farm team, if you will, of the Supreme Court for the Republicans. They're all young-ish, well, as young as you can get, so like 50 or late 40s. They're all telegenic. They'll all deliver relatively conservative opinions. They'll be a bit more conservative than John Roberts is, but probably a little less conservative than Samuel Alito or Clarence Thomas. But if the president wants to go out to the right and pick a more extremist type, like Thomas or Scalia, a fire breather, then his options drop significantly. Because the only real fire breathers that you have on federal courts, because of how both Bush is appointed, which was your telegenic, solid conservatives, you've got there are very few, and they're all pretty old, like Alex Kaczynski on the Ninth Circuit. So then you would have to reach down to a non-federal circuit, I believe this is true, but there are very few people that have been on the court in recent memory that haven't served on a federal level. The most recent example being Justice Kagan, who was, although she never sat in a federal court, she was the dean of Harvard Law and the Solicitor General of the United States. So that kind of makes up for it. But you've got maybe someone like Stephen Gross has been selected, who was the former Chief Attorney General of Nebraska, who is a huge following with culture warriors, but he's older. I personally heard floated the name of Keith Blackwell of the Georgia Supreme Court. But really, if Fitzgerald wants to make a mark on the court, he's got to pick somebody young and somebody relatively, at least pretty conservative. And so Blackwell is getting a lot of hype. As he's 41, he serves on the Georgia Supreme Court, and he's conservative enough where it counts. But really, there are no real
circuit.
Yeah, there are no real young super conservatives. If this is maybe 4 years later or something, if he gets an appointment at the end of his term, and we all know the Republicans would confirm them if they were in the majority, then they've got then I think he would have a chance to nominate somebody more to his liking, because he would hopefully nominate them around now to a federal court. But the only thing you've got right now really is either old people, or you've got somebody old, or you've got somebody young and inexperienced.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of
Or
his dilemma there.
Yeah.
I think what would be safest for him right now is to is to pick a Pryor or a Kavanaugh. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to be flashy, which is completely against the way that he works. But they're going to be solidly conservative, and from their current case ruling, they're not going to be as as wishy-washy as John Roberts is, because Fitzgerald will not be happy if whoever he appoints does like Roberts when he goes left on health care or Obamacare.
Right.
In those very important rulings, when Justice Roberts goes to the left of Justice Kennedy, he would be very upset, and so I think he's going to pick somebody who will be his best bet is to pick somebody who is solidly conservative and has ears on a federal court. Basically, your Pryor, your Kavanaugh, your establishment pick again there. And I mean, I think that had he decided to run for 2 terms, it would have been a lot different story if he had served his 2nd term, because there is no doubt in my mind that he would have done another chance to nominate in the 2021 to 2025 term. And by that point, there would be somebody on a federal court who would get a good ABA rating and would be a bit of a curveball, but still not too much they would get rejected. But right now, he's pretty much screwed no matter way he goes.
Maybe go for like a solid William Pryor of the 11th Circuit, or maybe Justice Gorsuch from the D.C. Circuit. Not flashy, but conservative.
Yeah, Gorsuch is not D.C. He's a 10th.
Or temp.
Brett Kavanaugh is D.C. Yeah, let's say. Yeah. Someone like Tom Hardiman on the 3rd Circuit again, or he's like 51. He's solidly conservative, and he's one of the most boring men there is.
Yeah.
That's kind of his problem here, is that the youngest real candidate that he has that's like good, i.e., somebody on one of the courts of appeal, because that's just what the ABA likes and that's what's worked well so far, would be Gorsuch, who is it would be Gorsuch, yes. I think there for a second, but it would be Gorsuch, who is still 49.
Yeah.
But honestly, that is to appoint someone boring and hope that his successor in the White House is as radical as he is, and appoint somebody who he'll elevate during his term.
Absolutely. As always, Bryant Wolf, thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. It's always a pleasure to be here.
This has been the Monday wrap-up roundtable on TedderVision. Capitol Hill on TedderVision is a free online government simulation game. You can find it at TedderVision.com/Capitol Hill. If you haven't joined us yet and you're listening to these, feel free to join us. You can find us on TedderVision.com. Look for Capitol Hill. Thank you and good night.